What's happening, everyone? My name is Max. I'm a communication skills coach. What I do on this channel is I look at all different types of people's communication skills. Today, we're having a second look at Priyanka Chopra. Obviously, she's a very accomplished person. A lot of people have been requesting for me to react to one of her public speeches, so that's what I'm going to be doing today. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. If you like my content, if you like Priyanka, if you like anything else that I do, and if I make you smile, please hit that subscribe button. Okay, here we go. Priyanka Chopra, Full Power of Women speech.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm gonna just keep it here. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Ava. She's 16 years old.
Commanding the stage already with a big, broad gesture, looking over at Ava. And notice what she did right away. She made an acknowledgement to the thing that was on the podium there.
I'm gonna just keep it here.
And I find a lot of speakers will do that before they get right in their speech. They'll comment on their environment. I find that's a really good tactic. Not only does it help you and it calms your own nerves, but it also helps humanize yourself to your audience as well. And what it does is it shows that you're comfortable in your environment. It's okay to acknowledge the things around you. You have that awareness. You're not so timid and rigid in your approach that you can break free from your script and comment on something around you. Already a couple things we can learn here from our girl, Priyanka.
But she, at such a tender age, understands the importance of being a voice for her peers, an advocate for young girls and women around the world who may not have the opportunities that us sitting over here have. So receiving this honor from a hero like her makes this so much more exceptional. So thank you.
Really sort of emphasizing her sincerity. See how she sort of crouched down and bowed there at the end.
Thank you.
And it's clear that what Priyanka is doing is she's looking around and she's engaging different parts of her audience, but she's also incorporating a young lady who we can't see right now just by looking at her. You can involve people by simply looking at them and making eye contact with them. And I said this the last time that I checked out Priyanka. She's really, really good at complementing her words with her gestures.
The opportunities that us sitting over here have.
I learned this in the comment section of my last video. I understand gesturing is more of a cultural thing in India, but that's still something we can take away into our own speeches and our own presentations. So gesturing is just an extra tool for people to grasp, understand, and remember our messages.
I'd like to extend my congratulations to each one of you, Octavia, Michelle, Kelly, Patty, and all 50 women that have been included in the Impact Report. Your achievements not just inspire me.
I think the more names we can use in a presentation, especially people who are listening in the audience.
Octavia, Michelle, Kelly.
It's a great way to pull people in. You think about sitting in a presentation, if you hear your name, you're automatically engaged. If you hear someone else's name, you're also more engaged because you're like, okay, is this person going to call on me? Or, hey, oh, I know this person that they just called on. It's just also a way to make it feel like more of a conversation. When you can make things more conversational, you're breaking down barriers between you and your audience.
But also so many others to work harder, to be better, and to make a dent wherever we can. So I'm very, very proud to be standing alongside of you. So in life, you know, there are moments when you stop and ask yourself, how did I get here? Like, why am I?
So she's really good at painting a picture with her gestures.
How did I get here?
She's doing a great job, and also notice how she's looking around at different parts of the audience. She's very conscious of being able to connect with different parts of the audience. So again, something to keep in mind for our own speeches as well, right? If we're not looking at a part of the audience, we're giving them an opportunity not to be engaged. Because if they're engaged, if they're interested, then we have a much better chance of getting our message across. Priyanka's doing all these little things to help keep her audience engaged, from the gestures, to the eye contact, to the names, right? All these things are increasing the opportunity for her to get her message across.
As I can remember, I made my parents very proud and happy 99% of the time. Okay, slight exaggerations of personal achievements are allowed from time to time, don't you think? My brother was born a few years later, and even then, nothing changed for me. We were both given equal opportunities.
And notice how throughout her speech she's been pausing at certain points.
Nothing changed for me.
Right? So what a pause does, and what Priyanka's doing, is she's giving the audience a break. She's giving the audience a chance to absorb the last words that she's just spoken. But she's also saying, hey, this is where I really want you to listen. She's not saying that specifically, but with her pause, that's what she's implying.
Girls were pulled out of school when they hit puberty because they were considered ready for marriage and babies. That's 12 and 13, while boys still enjoyed their childhood. Or basic human rights, such as healthcare, were denied just because they were women. Let's call this whole experience trigger number 1 for me.
I think Priyanka is doing a great job here, and I think actually her maybe doing a slight stumble over a word
Let's call this whole experience
only helps her. This is actually something called the pratfall effect. So the pratfall effect says that, hey, if someone messes up, as long as we perceive them to be competent in their subject matter, then we actually end up liking them more. For me, when I see Priyanka maybe miss a beat for a half second, to me that humanizes her.
in my career. I must have been about 18 or 19, telling me that if I didn't agree to the ridiculous terms or painfully low salary in his movie, that he would just replace me. Because girls are replaceable in the entertainment business. That was a memorable one.
That was a memorable one. See that? She wanted the audience to know that point.
Made me decide to make myself irreplaceable. But I think what really moved the needle for me and ultimately led...
That's interesting, that sort of her setbacks and her challenges in being a woman in this industry, it sounds like it's really motivated her.
Made me decide to make myself irreplaceable.
To me, that's very inspiring. I think she has a lot of belief in herself, clearly. So that's cool to hear.
Me to create the Priyanka Chopra Foundation for Health and Education, and around the same time partner with UNICEF, was an encounter with my housekeeper's daughter. About 12 years ago, I came home from set early one.
Yeah, so story after story here. Again, very powerful tool in public speaking. A story told right, a story told well, can really captivate an audience, especially about our own life. If we can let people into our own life and show our personal side and humanize us to our audience, it's a great way to connect with the audience.
She must have been 8 or 9 years old, and I knew she loved reading. So I asked her, I was like, it's a weekday, why aren't you in school? And she said, oh, I don't go to school anymore. So I went and asked her mother, and I said, why isn't she in school? And her mom said that her family couldn't afford to send her and her brothers to school, so they chose the boys.
The stories she's telling are simple but effective, right? Notice how she's using detail in her story as well.
She must have been 8 or 9 years old, and I knew she loved reading. It's a weekday, why aren't you in school?
It's the ability to paint a clear picture so the audience has a better visual representation of what happened, and as a result, they're more engaged, they're more locked into the story, right? Well, we can better picture a story, we're gonna be more engaged. So how do we do that? We use specific details.
Girls have the power to change the world.
Notice how she dropped down there to her audience, almost as a way to sort of be with them. I think for her right there, she's on a stage, she's behind a podium, dropping down increased her connection right there.
Despite of all the efforts and progress made over the last 2 decades, I'm just going to give you a stat, more than 15 million girls of primary school age will never learn how to read or write, compared to 10 million boys.
If you can do this, this is great. Use some stats to back up the emotional element of your speech. Audiences connect with emotion, but in their head, intellectually, they believe the logic. So if you can use and incorporate some stats, she used a survey there, I thought that was really helpful. That's going to not only increase your credibility, but it's also going to help your audience believe and remember your message that much more.
And that is where my passion stems from, because I know that a girl's education not just empowers families, but communities and economies. A result of her education, we all do better.
You can feel it now from her a little bit more toward then. You can feel it now. This feels like at the end here especially, it's really coming from the heart. It's really coming from a place of passion.
Result of her education, we all do better.
And again, if there's one thing I can tell people to do and take away from a speech like this, it's find the meaning in your speech. What's important to you? What's meaningful to you? What do you feel passionate about? What do you feel in your speech can be helpful to someone in your audience? And once we can identify that, let's focus in on that. And that's what draws the passion out of us. That's when our audience really listens.
I feel that it's our social responsibility to be a voice for the voiceless, which is why I applaud each and every woman in this room for being such a badass.
So that was The Power of Women speech by Priyanka Chopra. Very impressive, great public speaker. I will say there's a lot we can learn from her. Other than that, if you want to watch my uncut reaction and analysis, all you need to do is go to my Patreon page. I've also got my first uncut reaction and analysis of Priyanka Chopra on my Patreon page, so you can check that out as well. Other than that, my name is Max. I will catch you soon. Peace.